What could go wrong? Huh? Here we go.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. So, yeah, I'm Jayasingham, Nangamathu Jayasingham. Presently, actually, Professor Emeritus in Botany, Eastern University. And I'm an environmentalist, that's my profession, and I'm an attorney at law at present. But otherwise, since 1990, where I was displaced from this same house where we are sitting, and I was a refugee in the refugee camp, which was my own university, and that's when I took up to actually more sociological side. So because I had to manage nearly 50,000 refugees there, and I became more interested into conflicts, peace, and I also became a member of the National Peace Council. So I'm a director of National Peace Council. So I work.
So yeah, so that journey. So you started out as a botanist,
Yes.
as we spoke about before. What happened, like for people who don't know, what actually occurred to that I guess, what is the reason for this problem of conflict that occurred?
Yeah, basically what happens is, I mean, it had become a ethnic and religious conflict over time. We gained independence in 48. We have been under British and Portuguese and Dutch for over about 400 years. So communities had been living. But after independence, there had been, especially in 56, there was a imposing into the Sinhala language. Then subsequently, the majority was trying to use the ethnicity and at points religion to gain power. Basically, that it's nothing to do with the people, but it's the politics which really ruined us. And then because of that, so many things started, and there was government, I would say, imposing on many things, and then people reacting, and this eventually went into a bigger conflict, and which really became very big in 1983. So it went on for a long time.
Okay, so yeah, okay, so we've got. Let's check that's recording. That's great. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, so you're saying that there were people of power who used the ethnic difference or ethnic backgrounds of people to gain power, to utilise that as a way of building their power base.
Yeah, definitely, because I studied in Kandy, where all communities were there, all religions were there, and actually we didn't know any differences. I mean, we had, even today I have more friends Sinhalese, I have Muslim friends, we all were together in hostel, we all slept together, we were in one hostel, I mean, we were there the whole time. And there actually we didn't realize that there was a big issue. I mean, we were together only when later we suddenly realized, oh, this happened, that happened. Where before, even schools in every place, we say, you take Batiklo, if there was a school, if there were Sinhalese people, they went to a Tamil school. If there were a Tamil school, they went. So they just went on. But then they started segregating by race, religion, all this came up subsequently.
So in that change from people getting along to the conflict, what were some of the things you might look back and go, here's a sign that something is starting to now...
I mean, starting in 1948, soon after independence, they really disempowered all the Indian origin people from voting. They just made them, I mean, like nobody.
Yeah.
So in 70, it took 22 years or something. In 70 only they got something back. Yeah. And a lot of them were sent back to India after being here for more than 150 years. Yeah, so suddenly, overnight that happened. Yeah. 1956, they brought the Sinhala-only language act. So then that was to sideline all the Tamils. That's when this became serious. And then, of course, you can talk about different acts which sort of restricted you going to the university, restricted you to something, this, that. and it just went on.
Yeah, until I guess at some point it hits a tipping point where
It was okay. It was 56 was the main point. Then subsequently things happened, and 83 was the big turn back of armed struggle against the state.
Okay.
Where before that there were like protests by the politicians and all that in Galface, which was like basically smothered and dismantled. I mean, they just hit them off. But then slowly it built up, and 83 came the big bang. And it went on for nearly 30 years into armed struggle, then a separate government like that.
Yeah.
So it went on.
You know, the short time I've spent here and looking around, and you know, again, just people going on about their lives. When that big bang came, what was your feeling? What were you thinking at the time?
No, actually, I couldn't really, as I told you, I couldn't really visualize or understand. Because the thing is, I grew in Kandy with all the people. I suddenly couldn't happen what's going wrong. But because it was just a political thing and which went on for so long, if you speak to people who were at that time in schools, and if you ask them to draw a Sinhalese, they'll draw an army person. If you ask them to draw a vehicle, they will draw a camouflage, some tanker. And that's how people grew.
Wow.
So then what happened, the impacts of that then started continuing.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't understand what a Sinhalese was, what a normal vehicle was.
Yeah.
And even I have had a discussion with my kids, and one day when I was talking how we used to go at night, they said, "Why do you go at night? 6 o'clock you're supposed to come home."
Yeah.
That was the feeling my daughter had.
Yeah.
So you just changed the entire equations.
Yeah. And talk about young people and being young you know, young people at that time. You know, one of the things I've been learning, so when I was talking to them about North and South Korea, was the military service that every young person has to do. And I was thinking, well, what's the impact of every kid, every man, young man, being trained by the time they're 22 to be a killer, basically. And in your case, I guess there was a generation that grew up not knowing anything but conflict.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But they didn't know, because some of them, not that they joined by like purely option alone, but they also joined by choice, because they really didn't know any other path.
No. And like going forward, what's the impact, I guess, on that generation, do you think, of that grew up and didn't know anything?
It's a very complicated one. Quite a large percentage of them, affluent, had left the country. During that time, we had a lot of them leaving. Others have come through that, who are living, who are sometimes between the devil and the deep blue sea. They're just cornered on every side. Some of the people who were in the fights actually are here and there, didn't know where to go. So I think it has really messed up lives of many people.
Yeah. So, can you tell me, what does the solution look like to you? What if you were to go? I can go off to the great ether, being happy. What would it look like to you?
No, just go back in time. We were living together. Now, as I'm sitting here in Batiklo, we had Sinhalese, Muslims, Tamils, all living here in this own place where I'm sitting. The next door was a Muslim. I knew 10 houses that side there were Sinhalese. And we didn't have problems. We were living together. It was the politics which divided you. So if the politicians can shut up, I think we'll do better.
Yeah. Okay. So how does the work of the Peace Council try to achieve that?
Yeah. Now, Peace Council again is basically trying to do that. It's trying to talking to people about the good sides of it, where they're trying to do coming together, because collectively you all do better. And we are trying to just show them various things, how they could do better, how certain things can come together. And I think we have been achieving. It's not easy because when on one side the government was promoting division, it was getting difficult. But slowly it's coming in, especially the teams that we really build are able to go at a conflict time and able to talk to communities. So something.
Yeah. So how important is the discussion between the two groups who are in conflict, and how do you go about that? How can you get people to talk about these things?
No, I think the most important one is very often both sides who are in conflict really do not know the conflict. They don't even understand the conflict. They just say A is against you, B is against you. But if you ask them 5 questions, they just understand that there is nothing against each other.
Yeah.
So this is why in an issue, even in some peak hours, if you go into a deep village of Tamil or Sinhalese, they have no animosity against the other group. It's only when you get into you take a metropolitan where they are talking about a job, then someone says all the Sinhalese are getting jobs, all the Tamils are doing this. Then, it's actually a competition. They're trying to make it into ethnic and religious. But as an ordinary person, whatever said and done, Sri Lanka is a religious binding people. So they are, by nature, they are accommodative.
Brilliant. Okay, so my next questions are 4 or 5 words I'm going to give you. And I want you to give me what you think off the top of your head this word means to you, particularly in relation to your work, but up to you. Family. What does the word family mean, and what relationship does it have to conflict or not or having no?
My thing is, basically family is our background. Family is something that holds you. If you say you are happy, it's the family. So family is a very important aspect in our society, our culture, and me. So I think that's important.
Community.
Yeah, community too again has the same thing, because you grow up with that. A culture, you grow up with your friends, this one. It need not be mono-ethnic, mono-religious thing, but whom you grow with. Now say, my school community has all together. Place where I live, I know all my neighborhoods who sort of stand with me. So community is important in our culture and me. Yes.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. We're going to get to the pointy ones now. Authority or government.
Yeah. Authority is the one which I think we are having problem. Authority seems like it has come to a point where authority thinks they need not have justice. Authority, they think you have to, it's like a obey. That's where the issues have started. Yeah.
So so you're saying that they don't see it as a service, but as something, a tool of control.
Yeah, definitely. They sometimes even have used this word, we are like the kings of the past. Kings were no democratic, they were authorities.
Yeah. I'm going to ask another one, and people have struggled with this, so if you do, that's fine, but I'm going to ask it anyway. The word enemy.
Yeah, enemy, actually the enemy has been actually triggered into you. Even person who has done nothing to you, you see the people as enemy. This is what has happened in this form. People who had never met, as I told you, when you go and ask a school kid, draw a Sinhalese, they draw an army. So you see the other person as an enemy. But what have they done to you? Nothing. It's just the perspectives. So they are imposing that onto you. So it's a psychological thing, so that people don't get together. So.
Last one, education or knowledge, and/or knowledge.
Yeah, education also. We are supposed to be having some of the best educations in the South Asian countries. That too, a lot of politics has come and messed it up. Like they have made religious schools, religious-based schools, ethnic-based schools where people don't mix up a lot. And even in education, limited limited places in the universities, all that also have got politicized to a point. So they have messed everything up.
Yeah. And one I just wanted to ask, because of what we've spoken about before, business.
Yes. Yeah, business as usual, what happens is, anyway, business does very well during conflict. This is a well-known thing. Second World War, billionaires have been formed. So business has been doing this, and that too, some trades have been doing very well at the expense of the other during this conflict. Whoever inclined to the government, inclined to that, inclined to this, that has happened. At the same time, we also have had massive increase in corruption. So they have gone hand in hand.
So with that, what role can business play, do you think, in a solution? Like, what could it be its role?
No,
in a solution?
the business, what happens is, business has an advantage. They are only worried in terms of profits and things. So in different communities, moving communities together, business has a good role to play. So that's something business can do.
Yeah.
So apart from trying to be over,
So
Yeah.
are you saying, like, business can be blind to ethnicity and all this because all its main focus is on profit and loss, so it doesn't really matter?
Yeah, because they are interested in profit, they also like to mix with all populations. So because of that, they are worried about ethnicity. Even though you say it's immaterial, no, it's material to them, because if something is bad, then their business goes down.
Yeah.
So they like to have a community which are all like that, they can sell their place everywhere. So it becomes important.
All right. One last question. I hope those dogs get quiet.
Come on up, Lala. Just 1 minute, I'll just see. These people get scared of. டேய் நீங்க உள்ளுக்கு வாங்குறேன்டா, நீங்க படுற வாடு.
Hi boys.
ஆ ஆ சரி, அவங்கள பார்த்துக்கோங்க. நாய் அவங்கள கண்டு பயப்படுது. சாரி. யா ஓகே.
All right, last question. If you were to go back in time and meet a much younger Jay before he started out on this journey, what advice would you give him?
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, a lot of communities which were there in mixed proportions, go back to them. Where you have a neighbor Tamil, where you have a neighbor Muslim, where you have a neighbor Sinhalese, then you grow understanding them. Now, I had the great opportunity because I lived in a college when I studied. I lived with all of them. So I understand Sinhalese. I know their culture. I know the Muslims. I know their things. You grow with them. Then you don't have really, like the question that you asked earlier, you don't really treat them as enemy. I mean, they have a difference in something. You have Christmas, I have another thing. But that's not something different.
Yeah.
So you appreciate the differences rather than sort of like make the differences as like animosity or something like that.
Would there be any advice you'd give yourself that you wish you had have known? Is there something where you're like, I wish I had have known this?
Not exactly. No, I didn't really get that question.
Okay, so
yeah.
all you've learnt over your whole life,
Yeah.
and if you could go, young Jay,
Yeah.
what's something you're like, I wish I had have known this?
Yeah.
thing?
I mean, at one time, I really couldn't understand what the conflict is, because I was so blind to it. Not blind. The place where I grew, I did see the conflict. 2 places. Patiklo, where I grew. As I told you, there was a Muslim on that side, there was Sinhalese on that side. This is how I grew. I went to college, my friends were Sinhalese, Muslims, everyone. So I couldn't, when it really happened, even today, I find it difficult to understand what was the problem. If we could be like that all the time, I mean, in this village, in school, why? That's still a question.
So I'm wondering whether the young Jay could have a message for the world. It's like,
Yeah,
because he was living.
just let people live by themselves. Do not interfere into people's integrations. Let them live with it. Don't support anyone. Don't this anyone. let them live with it. Give everyone to have their own way, as long as it doesn't affect the others.
Yeah.
And I think you can be peaceful.
That's beautiful.
Thank
What about Eddie?
Thank you. No, that's sincerely I feel that. But I grew that way, to be honest.